is the 39th year since Shiur. I guess our tachlis is to remember who he was. I guess that's one thing. To understand we have to aim for what he did and for what we have to do for Klali Yisrael. And I guess that's to learn that, and hopefully Mashiach will be coming soon. But obviously we saw a tremendous change, not only him, but the Beinish who made, it's going the wrong way. There was a Gemara in Shabbos that says that in Yom Yisur, what do you call it? The thing the Beinish said that he put a Tov Chaim on the heads of the tzaddikim, and what he called, and they should live. So the Midas Adin came with a taina and saying, why should they live? What did they do? So he says they didn't do anything. He says, I'll be made. The Beinish said, I'll be made that even if they tried, it wouldn't have helped. So he said, L'fanecha yedu niglu, I think the word. But for him, who said they saw it, they didn't know that. So why didn't they try? So he said, put a tough novice on their heads instead. So mashmi, you see that dying first, not thinking the churban of what you believed in, and we see that from Yeshua, from what Hulda said, that when the time of the sons will come, and he died a terrible death, and yet that was considered an Indian that he fought didn't see the churban. And I think the biggest Yishadas that happened, I think, in the concentration camps, imagine, no one knew what's going to happen in America. I mean, their idea was the Klali Yisrael's ending with us and stuff. That tremendous Yishadas that happens, it's a terrible thing. But if you die, so you have a different story. You'll find the Prime Minister died just before, the Harav died a few years before. But the idea is that they don't come to see the churban. Okay? But the Beinish saves the people he has to do, that's going to rebuild. However that makes, before the war, after the war, that started, that come from Shekai, it doesn't make a difference where they come from, how they come, but he saves the people that he needed to rebuild Torah. And you see that the rebuilding of Torah got to a point where I think more than anywhere else in the time of history is that people who want to learn have the ability to learn. There's no such thing as a person who wants to learn and can't learn, whether it's a Torah mate or something else. But there's always someone stepping forward to help them to get up there. And that's, I think, the thing that did not exist in any part of Torah. I mean, in the time of the Tanoim, you have Rabbi Eliezer was in Amaretz up to 22 or 26, whatever it was. Rabbi Akiva, 40, didn't know how to read. So in other words, these things, this doesn't exist in our time. Baruch Hashem, we have it. Whatever it is, I can't say we're bigger because we have so little people. But Lamaisa, it's something that obviously we see that we were able to accomplish, and the amount of people sitting and learning, and what they call it, and the Kailin and stuff like that. I mean, this is the Derech HaChaim of theirs, and the girls that support their families and stuff. These are things which were unseen before, and Baruch Hashem, that we've been very successful. And what's happened, how did they do this thing? And I say for the few Yechidim that existed, I guess we'd have to first start off what the Chiyuv of the Yochid is. Now, the person has to steig, like we say, to his keiches. Now, does anybody really know what his keiches are? Obviously, you keep trying, and then when you hit the point where you can't make it, that's beyond your keiches. But till then, you'll never know if that's your keiches or not. It's It's always a good excuse, but it's not there. But the idea is that we all have different keiches. That's the important part for us to know. And that was maybe the biggest evil of Zdoim. That Zdoim, the Beinish himself destroyed Zdoim. That's a bigger shame in the world as far as we can think of. Bigger Rotzchut for sure. You can say Hitler, what do you call it? And think you didn't find the Beinish and Biatzma come down and kill him. He utilized them first for whatever tzorchim he needed them for, and then after that, when he was finished, he made them balbul oilam or for whatever reason it is there, and after that they got killed. But Zdoim Biatzma came down. Why? Because I think because Zdoim, you maybe think that it's good what they say. So therefore, in order for you to understand that it's not good, the Beinish, they shouldn't make a Torah, came down Biatzma. One of the things that they did was equality. What do I mean equality? They used to put down here, they just had this bed, and they would make everybody come to town and lie down on it. If you're too big, they chopped off a little bit. If you're too short, they stretched you. Ich mean, what is that? Mishugoyim? I mean, what are they trying to show over here? Do you think how many countries would tolerate such a thing? All the citizens are crippled from going to Zdoim, they wouldn't come and attack Zdoim. I mean, that doesn't make sense. Elavos, they're trying to show you by us nobody stands out. Everybody's the same size. There's nothing big kishrenis by us. And obviously this has been tried, disturbed, Bufit, this is it, it's affirmative action. It's the simple thing that, we have really the same argument about the marks. Should we hang up the marks? Not hang up the marks. Is the guy made me visit? I don't think any bacher was mevuzit. The parents may be mevuzit, but don't think the bacher are mevuzit. The bacher will ask the kids, who's the smartest guy in the class? Everyone will tell you the same guy. There's I'm not in competition with you. If I'm trying the best I can to become as big as I can, and that's all. That's his chiyuv. And the Beinish made everybody different. Why? Because the world has to run. If you make everybody with the kishur, they become the gadol hador. So if that's the case, you have nobody else that's doing anything else in the world. They're not going to be. They're going to be everyone's saying a shiur. Everyone's running to say a shiur, right? First of all, you don't have talmidim enough for them. Secondly, nobody's taking care of kashrus. Nobody's taking care of hashgochas, of any type of hashgochas, rabbonim and stuff like that. You're not going to have these things. And you're definitely not going to have the mechanic, right? Because why should I be a mechanic when I'll become the gadol hador? And we should all try to become the gadol hador. But the Maisa didn't get everyone the kishon to become the gadol hador. He gave some people the kishon, you can become the mechanic. There's nothing wrong with becoming the mechanic. You become an Oved Hashem, and you can do whatever the Beinish wants for you. We gave you your keiches, and you can say it. And in the Shiur uses this Moshe really for understand Anove. He says, everyone knows they themselves never lived up to their potential. I mean, there's some goof somewhere we can battle. We did something wrong, right? Nobody's going to say easy. I feel I'm doing everything I could, right? But the other person, we have no idea what he can do. So therefore, we have to give him cover. We have no idea what he can do. And you see, then I'm not even talking about the etzem, the guy I walk into a store, and there's a guy sitting saying Tillim. That's all he's doing. I walk into the store, he comes out, stands up, he asks me if I can help me. So no, I'm looking around, he sits back down and says Tillim. I come to pay, he stops for a minute and takes the thing, then he's back in his Tillim. That guy may be living up to his potential. He can't do more than that, but he uses every minute he can for it and stuff like that. That is a person I know. I'm not using that, so therefore that's one guy that everyone can agree. Possibly someone is better than him. What about the Michael of Moshe Rabbeinu was Odom Kolod, Onav Mikol Odom Asher Pnei Adama. That's a kasha. How are you? How do you become that? How do I think that I look at the Michal Shabbos, it's in my class, or was in my class, and he's open Shabbos, he's a kaifer, he's a this. I mean, how do I say I'm smaller than him? How do you say that I can, honor me, kol ha'odom? I mean, how does he share such a thing? I guess Nadav Avihu would be considered in kol ha'odom, and stuff like that. Now, for PK, he knew he was the boss. That part has nothing to do with godless. He's the boss, he has to make the decisions. But Lamaisa, that he felt that they had a mila that maybe he didn't have. I think the pshat is simply, if I was in their shoes, I'd be worse than them. I can't say that for sure, but something that's that idea. Anyway, that's the chiyuv of the yochid. What's the chiyuv of the klal? That's for us to take these keiches that the yochid has and to build them up, but to help them build them up to the biggest madriga shayach for them. So the first step is the adonim, which is everybody's equal to the adonim, and the one thing that you should say what it means is that in the foundation of every Gadol Klali, so he has to have the same ability that another guy has, because other three choices, he can't reach his madriga, it's not shayach. Then after the adonim, which is only masa shekel, which means that the Oshel Yarbe V'Onif L'Yamid, it goes till the Mishkan, and the thing, because that's all lefi each one's kefis. But if you reach the Mishkan, you reach your potential. So therefore, everybody has to reach the Mishkan. But there's one bigger thing that they think the Sapuna, well, there's only one Sapuna in Parashas Pikudei. And what he says there is very interesting. I'll read the pasuk to you because it is the word Mishkan. So twice he may mix it up. So that's why I said it by heart. I won't be able to say it slow. So Vayiva Chodesh Agrisha Bashon Hashenish Bech LaChodesh Hukam HaMishkan. The Mishkan was erected. What does Mishkan mean here? First is the building. Okay. Vayoka Moshe Mishkan. Moshe put up the Mishkan, right? So again, the building. Vayiten is Adonok, which makes sense. Vayosim is kosher. Vayiten is Berichov. Vayokim is Amudov, which is also Keseda, right? Vayifresh is oil al HaMishkan. And he put the oil on the Mishkan. Where's the Mishkan? Who put up the Mishkan? So the point says that obviously the second one, Mishkan, means Vayoka Moshe's HaMishkan means the Esiriyas. So who builds a building by putting up the Esiriyas first? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, you go from the bottom up. You're not going to put it up. So he said it was either a nest or that he stood on tall ladders, whatever it is. So I kind of what is it? You have a big kashi. How come the kids out of town or certain schools, certain words, is somehow not in the level of other schools? You say the kids are smarter? I don't believe that's true. I mean, the kids are up with the gap wherever they are. And there's a mail, so why you see this guy better? Why we more productive than them? He said, because you look at, first we pick up the ceiling. And you look at the ceiling and say, we got to get that far. Now, as a kid that graduates, let's say, our elementary school, he's got to be learning all the tesis. Why? Because he was going to get into Yeshiva Gedola or Yeshiva, whatever they called it, high school, his sister that learns all the tesis. So he's got to be used to learning all the tesis. Now the question is, how do we get there? So the question is, obviously, in the second year we have to learn this much, and third year we have to learn this much, fourth year this much, and the end of it. But what happens if I don't build that way? I build like I build out of town. Oh, this kid, do you think he can take that much? Nah, I don't think he can take it. Let's think of only Mishnayos, maybe that's good enough. And then maybe by the time it's in the 8th grade, maybe we'll learn Mishnayos, and that's about it. Why? Because you're building from the bottom. You don't have anything what you're going for. And that's the part, that's one of the chiyuvim that Klal Yisrael has to use, that we give a goal that's much higher than what people think they can reach. They think they can't reach it, but if every son, Baruch Hashem, can reach it, it doesn't make a difference, whatever it is there. Who do you pick? So I guess the Beinish is the one that picks, because you lay vakia. We can't choose who. And we've had nices like that. I've had parents in the yeshiva that decided that the guide is going to be this one. And it turns out that one is the one that probably doesn't make it. And the one that did make it is the one that he felt he couldn't make it, whatever it is, and isn't it? And he's the one that made it. In other words, you have no idea what kishleinis they are, what nisyenis the Beinish can put them through, and so on. So you don't be trying to push away somebody, and you don't push a guy into the place. The Beinish won't do that. Then, what does he have to, this person, after he reaches and he's going to become the Rebbe or whatever it is, his keches has to be Bal Kocha Merochak. In other words, that's the, as you used to say about the Zbeach Azov, you put the Keteris on it. So of the five senses a person has, the only one that's far, that reaches far, is Reach, and it also counts as, it becomes Bal Kocha. Now, Ev should become a Skaven, the whole sugi in Psochim, is about, can you keep your nose closed? You can't. You can hold your nose if you want for a minute or something like that. That doesn't help. You're not going to do it. So therefore, you have the hashpoye merochik and balkocha. That's the keach. How do you establish that? You establish that usually by tovas haneres and batlokas haneres. You know, it's you help the guy go sumera and I say teif. And then I showed that the Shiva, I don't know, I mean, even though there's a lot of summa around the shmuzin and stuff like that he has, but I don't know how much he did personally, and stuff. But vice is the amount of teicha that he did out, because you find by the maftir, in a sense, the hate of his haneres is before the maftir. And the hadlokas haneres starts with maftir, starts with hadlokas haneres. The parashas starts one pasuk earlier, so why don't you just start with the one pasuk earlier? Because that's not necessary, maybe. Sometimes the shaykh with hadlokas haneres alone, that you're able to reach this madriga, to have that hashpoya. And the thing there, because he did have certain hashpoyas that I never saw anyone else. I mean, and there's also another thing, you can never retire, really. He brings you the Shiur from by the end of Chukaisai, the last mitzvah there is talking about Ma'aseh Behemah. So Ma'aseh Behemah, so it says two things: Lo Yivakia, and you're not allowed to also make it to Mura. He said it's a Kal V'Chema. I can't be Yivakia, so surely can't make it to Mura. And he's saying, so like, why do you have to tell me I can't make it to Mura? So he said, the reason is, the Yivakia is to make you. A Tumura, you're stuck for life. There's no retirement. I mean, you don't do the same thing somewhere else, but you're not retiring. I mean, that's the point. So this that you have, they have it, I think, in terms of service. I think they got to get it out of their papers. 65 is mandatory retirement and stuff like this. I'm not a pope. We'd be out of business with that kind of thing. Okay, so he said the Hachane, the Ari Machane, the people that, and then, okay, you have to have something to be proud of, about the Shiur. I guess to a certain extent, there's, you feel that we knew a little bit of the godless of the Shiur. I don't know if we did, that's the truth. I'm not sure I did that. That's for sure. But the Bachur used to sneak up on him, find out, what does he do? I never spied on my father, so I can't ask you such a thing. I never knew what he did. But the Bachur Yeshiva knew. What do you do? He's here for Yontif, sometimes a 3-day Yontif. So Shabbos, you get up early, and he would be sitting in the library, and he would be learning. And they were looking, I don't know where they're looking from, but wherever they're looking from, they're looking. And this is what he did. This is what they described to me. And he went to the Gemara. This is a Chumash. Rashi. Taste this. He did about 100 an hour. So, when he told me, I personally really was not too impressed. I mean, we can't say I'm impressed. I can't do it. That doesn't mean anything. We talking about the Shiur, so I'm really too impressed. Someone knows the Gemara that well, I guess he can chazer that fast. I mean, you look at it, you know it. So what's the problem? About a year ago, it was probably almost 2 years. Not quite 2 years yet. But I was at a bar mitzvah in California. And the other side of the bar mitzvah was my brother's nephew from his wife married my niece from my wife. Okay? So anyway, so he's right about mitzvah. And he's telling me that he used to hang out, and this I remember, he used to come to David, for Shabbos, and then go across the street and sit by the Rosh Hashiva. And he would just sit there. So Rosh Hashiva once picked up, I guess, a partis. He said, and he started reading it. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And that's what he said. He read that fast. So that was just no kashi, how he knew all that, because that's how fast he read. So he can read a lot of stuff like it. And he used to be, if anyone ever noticed it, he never had to turn pages. Wherever he turned to was the right page. That was, I guess, the Siyata the Shmaya, but that was in there. The guy, some of the Bachim used to notice that. I think that I know, but but you need Daf Nun Dalet, it came out to Daf Nun Dalet. Then needed nothing. And you'll say he knew approximately when not to this, but Nun could be Nun A, could be Nun Gimel, could be the same thing, So even if he picks it from the he picks from the bottom of the page. He never went like this to look at the thing, maybe couldn't reach it. Not funny, but it could be. So he always took from the bottom and he would go there, and there it was. But this I once heard from, I remember there was, I forgot who would say if it was a son of three. And the Shiva, you have Ephraim Greenblatt had a very big library, about 15,000 slot. He's in Dalton there. And he's been in his garage. And Shiva came in and he said, I don't have the sefer. And then he writes a tshuva about this and this subject. They think they say there's 3 sforim. So what the Shiva says, wasn't Zochen. We'll find it. Right? So each one takes 1 volume. You still got a third one no one's taken. And the Shiva is picking up, and there it was. What did he needed? That's called Siyat Ishwai. Okay, that's something that obviously the Beinish does. It's not about anything. But the cases of, I've heard he described it as Mehirus. I don't know exactly what that means, supposedly, able to see many things at one time. It's probably floors the world, many things the world. able to do. I saw a Yahrtzeit, one of your books, I don't know who wrote it, anything there. I just was looking at some stories about the Rosh Yeshiva, and he had a story when he was in Yahrtzeit in 64. 64, I guess everybody tried to test who is he? Who's this guy came here? So he came. He said they threw at him kashas from all over, and he's singing. So Chaim Grayman was there. And that's a nephew of the Beinish. He was the head of the Beinish Klali. So the guy asked him, he said, you probably saw this by the Beinish also. So he says, so what are you so spoiled about? He said, but not in that degree. I saw it by the Beinish, but not to that degree. And stuff like that. That could be because they kept testing him, but Machazonis didn't test him, so you don't know, the thing that they had the chance. I have no idea. I'm not saying, but there's something like that. And these are the things, and the Ikar is that he was also able, I guess you want to call it like a computer. What's the advice of a computer? It finds the word that you want, right? So if you want to look up shuvas of these, I forgot what they called it, this thing where they have the whole thing by Ilan, Koratera, whatever it is there. So you just press the button on this world, and then all of a sudden 1,000 pages will fall in. These are the shuvas that talk about this word. Okay, we got the time and Sefer. There's a different story, but that's what he is there. So the idea is, how did he make the dimyanis? If you think all of a sudden you ask him a question and he's telling you an answer from over there. What does over there got to do with here? And stuff like that. So obviously this concept that somehow it hits something in his mind. That's why he's able to do that. And that was the big argumentation gave it to him, I guess, because he needed it this time, so that's why he got it. It was that God in innovation gives the kishoridis himself. He doesn't, it's not something that anyone did something to make himself that smart. That's something that the Beinish gave. Why the Beinish give one person such a crazy keach, another person not a different keach? Because this guy, he's got a different tafkid, he's got a different what he called, and he's got to make it do something, and he's going to do it. And the Beinish doesn't play favoritism. It'll be done, the person has these kishreinis, why didn't live up to whatever you could have been? And the guy with the little kishreinis, why didn't you live up to what you could have been? But the idea is that he expects, I don't need 50 Gedolim like that, I need 2, I need 1, I need 1. And that was the other thing that I saw, that I never saw, I don't know if anyone else really saw it, the concept of Inish dismissed Dafin that at least the last 45 years of his life, Moshe said it, it's the end. You don't have to go right there. Now, if he said it, that's the maybe one I asked Kasha, one is that. No such thing. He said it, that was enough. And then that was the thing. So I'm saying that's the Inishti Mistafine. You find it in Moshe rules, it's about Rav, and says that there's a concept like that I don't start up with him. And I remember the Shiur, there was once Moshe on the east side, the Sukkah. So I don't know if I was there at the time or just heard it so many times. So I don't know. So that what was the Moshe? They were learning, and he gave it an answer, and he told the thesis on daf, whatever daf it was, Lamed Gimel, okay, Lamed Beis. And the guy says, no, that's Lamed Dalet. So all of a sudden, the Shiva disappears, and he comes back with a Gemara, and he showed him the Lamed Gimel. So he asked him, why was it so important to know the Lamed Gimel and Daf, enough community? I don't know which different daf it is anyway, so what difference it make? What's important to know Lamed Gimel and Daf? He says because he paskins a lot of times fast, and he has to be totally on his memory for the Ma'amekenis and stuff like that. If he can make a mistake like that, he can't trust his memory anymore. So he had to go just to see if his memory still worked. And stuff like guys contradicting him. So what could he say? Maybe the guy's right. He doesn't know. And so he went to check it. These are the godless that we have, not that so much that we have to be able to live up to it, but to live up to what he accomplished. That's what we have to live up to. In other words, whatever it is, he became. He became. They become by himself. They go out and advertise himself. Kakashis come send it to me and stuff like that. I don't think so. I don't think that that's the way it works. But the Beinish gives the siyata d'shmaya that somehow they know they come to you. Why they come to me? Because God sent them. That's why they come to me. They come to you because God sent them to you. That's all it is. It's a thing there. And there's no election by us. There's no, you're not the Pope because we voted for you. You're because the world recognized it. Now, how did the world recognize it? How did they get to recognize it? That's the Neshamayim. So I'm saying that's what we lost, but that's what we try to remember. That's possible that every one of us, to our madrega, whatever it is, can live up to. That we can have hashmoya, that we can have a mamish, that we can reach our potential, or think we can reach our potential as much as is possible, and that's all the Beinish wants from us. And if we do that, then we made a better place of the world. The world becomes better, not because he himself personally had shaykhs to this, but obviously the Beinish gives also a ruach in the world, that it's going to be better and so on. And now they say there's a much better ruach than there was in Israel. The stuff, not so much anti-Reformer and stuff like that. And the stuff that people are getting a little from up could be the war scaring. If it doesn't make a difference, why? But the nation is making a ruach that there's such a thing in the world. And he's making it because we should be able to take advantage of it to push forward all our plans, all the things and the masak and everything that we can in the world. And the Yahrtzeit is to be a skilled tzedek.
Tonight I'd like to discuss part of the last share of Yeshiva that's all said on Seftas Bava Basra. Some of us are zecher to hear part of this year. We're going on Kuf Chav Zayim and Aleph. The Gemara was brought in Tumtum on Kuf Chav and Beis because it says a Tumah Bechar, and a Tumtum doesn't get Chelik Bechar. Another thing, he's not Ma'id Chelik Bechar, doesn't come Ben Tzara Meira. The dinim it comes to. Then Reb Shizvi comes along and says, Af Einu Nimo Shmeina. Doesn't get Mila on Shmeina. When he comes out, you need the Makroi Ish Kazuya B'Yol Zacha. Says after that, again this is Moshe Tidma. Then the next pasuk, Yom HaShmini Yimo, on the 8th day you get Mila. So Ad Shehei Zacher B'Shas Leida, till it's a Zacher at the time when it was born. What do you mean Zacher? Meaning we had to know it was a Zacher. Rather, it's Nikrav and it's a Zacher. It was a Zacher, but we didn't know. That's the first thing. Then the Gemara says, second din, Rav Shravya Amar Af Ein Imo Tamei Leida. The mother doesn't even become Tamei Leida. Same idea. So the truth is, the Bach changes the gears in our Gemara because Pashtus Rav Shizri is going on the second pasuk. Pasuk says Isha Riva Yol Zacha, the Thomas Shivas Yamim, which is Tumas Leida. That's what Rav Shravi is talking about. So that's the part should have been first. So the Bach switches it around, and then Rav Shizri that says the next pasuk Yom Shmini Yimo B'Sar Olasa. The Rashbam he switches it around. I don't know if he had the gears to that way, but also he has it switched. But Rebbeinu Gershom, other Rishonim do not have it. They didn't change it. They have it the way we have it in our Gemara. One point maybe we'll get back to. So the Gemara has a kash. Meisvei, on the Shravya, maybe this is why, because the kash is in the Shravya. Meisvei, Mapelis Tumtum Androgenis Teisha Lazach in the Keva, Tiyufta Shravya Tiyufta. If Shravya said, Ein Imo Tamei Leida, it doesn't have Tumas Leida. If it's a Tumtum, it's born as a Tumtum. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl at the Shas time when it's born. No Vlad Vadai, a boy or girl. No Tumas Leida. He shlugged up. The Mishnah says that there is Tumas Leida. Teish Lazach in the Keva. Leimit Habitiyufta Rav Shizli also. The Chayra, he's also going with the drasha. And he also says that it's not Nima L'Shmaina. Says the Gemara, no. Tana Svuki Misafkevei L'Chumr. The Tana isn't sure if this is this drasha, if we do darshan or we don't. And Mamei L'Chumr, we have to give it Tumah. Rav Shravya is giving a kula. He's saying for sure there is no Tumas Leida. So he's up Kishlagin. But is Rav Shizvi up Kishlagin? No. Because he could be going l'chumra, meaning what does l'chumra mean? Meaning you're not going to be nimo b'shmaina. You're not going to be nimo on Shabbos because maybe it's a chil Shabbos, but you will be nimo l'shmaina. That's what should be. That would be the sveika, and that's how you would do it. The truth is, the kasha she was starting the shear off over here is the Rashbam touched Rav Shizvi at the very beginning of the Gemara. Uviyam Hashmini Yimo Af Einim L'Shmaina Lidchei Shabbos Kedashinan Uviyam Hashmini B'Yam Afil B'Shabbos. L'chayra at the beginning of the Gemara, when Rav Shizvi said his din, he was talking about the din of Yom HaShmini. Very simple. The pasuk says Yom HaShmini. Granted, there's a riboy for Shabbos too, but if it's not Tamei Leida, it should not be Tamei. It should not be Nimo L'Shmaina and not be Deicha Shabbos. But the Rashbam didn't say that. He says before the Gemara was Kash Mapelos Tumtum, he says already we're only talking about Shabbos. Now l'chayre that's only L'maskana. L'maskana we're l'chumra, so we're saying it's going to be Nimo L'Shmaina because of the suffix. But it won't be Deicha Shabbos because of the suffix. That's the chayr where he should have put it in, but he didn't. That's the kasha the Yeshiva is going through in this year. The Ma'aseh the Gemara asks if it's only a sveika ihachi teisha zachin kevel nidim boile. If it's misafik, you're giving him tuma. Maybe there's no tuma. Maybe there's no leida altogether. And memela when he sees tam, you have to be chayshish for nida. Why isn't it saying nida kasha? You got a kasha. Says the Rashbam over here. Kasha. Aval tiyufta mamish eino b'shvil shechosim in our Mishnah with matzi neima tani zacha kevel nida. It's not a tiyufta. We have Kivega here. Sechens 2, the Gemara and the Beis and the Beis. The Beis and Aleph, the Rashbam is on the Beis and the Beis. The Machlaik is if there's a brother that's Isaac with the Nechasim of the other brothers, that's the Yerusha. Itma echem en achim shein neise v'neise mitzach habayis v'ya einis v'shtaris yaitzim al shemai. One of the brothers were taking care of the business in the family, and the shtaris were written in his name. V'oma shalihem, and he claims they're his. Shenoflim beis aviima, came from my mother's side. Omer Rav, alav l'habiraya. Rav says he has to prove it. He has to prove he has money. As far as we know, there was no money. It's only coming from the father, Birusha. So what's going on? And Shmuel, Omer ala achim l'habiraya. No, it's on his name. When they signed it, they knew what they're doing, the Adam, and that's it. He has to prove it. Then Shmuel says, Oma Shmuel moideli Abba, shemeis ala achim l'birayim. Rav admits to me, if that brother who's being Isaac ben Chasim and has the onus on his name, that Rav holds he has to prove where he got the money from. If he dies, the other brothers have to prove the assignment, because the brother who's working with it, he should know. But the assignment, how do they know anything? So we're putting the proof now back on the Maitzi, on the brothers. He said, Shmuel said, Rav is mighty to me, that would be the halacha. So a papa asks, it's not true. Master Rav Papa, klum tanina lohuli yasmi midi lo tanu hulavuhoin. Do we taina if he assigned something the father himself couldn't have made a taina? I varova apik zuga de sarvalo of safer the god told me asked me below the raya of the ram soon lahashalahask. Rava took away from Yisaimim. They don't know how they got it. Things that are made lahashalahask, scissors, svarim. They took it away from them because the muksik was the other guy. The Yisaimim don't know where they got it from. Maybe Taka father bought it. No, too bad. You have to prove it. And these Yisayimim only have the time of their father. Says the Gemara, kasha. It's a kasha. Says the Rashbam, kasha, done kasha, my Shmuel said, Maidali Abel, he shouldn't have been Maida. Or Pasuk of Chanano, he brings down the Rashbam, the Chanano, the halacha, Hilchasuk Shmuel, the Heicha, the Mis, ala Achim Levirayim. Where the brother dies, Taka, like Shmuel says, Yisayimim, the brothers have to prove to the Yisayim to be mighty. Chaim Pirish, Naktinan, Me'abaisai Kol Heicha Dam B'Gmara, Tiyufta, Leplaini, Tiyufta, Batlu Divrei Mesha, Tiyufta Allah, Legamri. If you use Lashon Tiyufta, it's Batlu Legamri. Use Lashon Kasha, no, it's not Batlu, maybe you have a teretz, you'll be able to get it. That's what the Rach says. That's what the Rabbi say. Says the Rashbam, Avav ein nirali, ein nir beinai. The loshno tiyufta, loshno kasha. There's no difference between tiyufta and a kasha. They're all upgeschlagen. But you use tiyufta when it has shaykhis to a mishnah or a brisa. That's loshon tiyufta, and you use loshon kasha when it's from a marayim, like over here. So the B'kiega just seichens it so. He doesn't ask a kasha. The Pilpul Charifta on the Rush, he asks a kasha. He says, L'chai with this Stephen Rashbam. Over here the Rashbam says kasha, but he wasn't up Kishlag. And over there he says kasha is just as good as tiyufta. So he vibes fair on that. The Shiva, it's all in Hara Aleph, in Anaf Aleph, the Shiva brings down that he has a teretz. Think about in the Shiva is also mechavim to teretz. He says he's very happy. He was mechavim to Neid Yehuda. Says, let's see what's going on over here. Over there was a kasha from a member. Member gets a kasha, and it means a tiyufta. Good. But over here, it's a mishnah. The mishnah asked on Rav Shravya, and it slugged them up at tiyufta. And the same mishnah was used on Rav Shizvi, and it only says kasha. It's not pshat that it's from Divrei Amarayim. So it's l'chayra, a big chiluk over here. Avadi, you should ask him over here that it's shaykh to hold this way. It's not a big steam in the Rashbam. What did the Pilpul Charifta hold? The Pilpul Charifta obviously was saying, once you see that the word kasha is used, as a shakas tiyufta, then it means upgeshlagen. Rather, now you can use it other places, but the word kasha and tiyufta sounds like he thinks they mean the same thing. The next thing is, the Rif Taka Paskins like Ushizvi. he brings down Rav Shizvi. He doesn't bring Rav Shravia, he brings down Rav Shizvi. Shizvi, that with the lashon of Shizvi, af ein nima l'shmayna. It's not nima l'shmayna. What he means is he means shmayna. It's not nima l'shmayna. So he's one day or not. We'll have to see. Pashtus, in order to fit into Gemara, it has to be only it's not Deicha Shabbos, but you have to still do Yom Shemini, or else Chayr is a kasha from the Mishnah. But we'll see how the Rif might have another pshat in Asuk. The Rosh, he has a kasha on the Rif. The Rosh's kasha is in Siman Tezayin, in Chesed, of course. Tamely, Amai Maisi Rav Alphas al Hachter Shizvi. Why did he bring down Rav Shizvi for her Eise, Rav Shivya, Rav Shravya, Rav Shizvi, Masnisim, Apelas, Tumtum, Androgenis, and some other places? He was slugged up. Obviously, he's learning that Kasha to Yufta are all the same, which the Pilpul Charifta, the Shiva, which that part of the Shiur we're not going to get to, and the Reb Kiva Eges go through that the Rashi really passes like Shmuel also over there, like the Rif, but over here he doesn't. So B'chlal, there's a lot of kashas that have to be answered. But here he's asking straight that the Rif should not have brought it, and the Rosh himself taka holds if Shizvi is up to Shlok. That's it. That means a tumtum is nimal l'shmayna and daicha Shabbos. Finish. He's out. He's out. What's chat in the that the Pilpul Charifta says the Rif is not a big kasha because the Rif does make a chiluk between kasha and tiyufta. So that's not a problem on the Rif himself. The Rambam also paskins like Rav Shizvi. Sorry, the Rambam doesn't bring Rav Shizvi in Hilchas Mila at all. He doesn't bring it, and the Beis Yosef. It's still an Anaf on that piece in Anaf Aleph. He says the Beis Yosef in Siman Kuf Samach Vav says that the Rambam and the Rosh hold that Allah is not like a Shizvi. Finish. And the Ramah in Sif Yud, he brings it down, but he says these words. The Ramah in Sif Yud says Tumtum Shei Nikra v'Nimtza Zacha Malin Eisov b'Shabbos Shekein Kosuv HaRambam v'HaRosh. A Tumtum that was Nikra v'Nimtza Zacha. You mile on Shabbos, Shekain Kosev Rosh Ram. Now, the Rishur speaks out. The Rambam doesn't say anything about it any place, but the fact that he left it out, it means that it has regular din of all milas across the board. So the Rosh and the Rambam hold if Shizvi's out and Taki Yimal the Timtum on Yom Shmini on Shabbos. The Nakat Yeshim Far. He brings down the Ramah, brings down the Yeshim Farshim that hold Yeshayimim that. They asked it to be mal on Shabbos, and that he brings down from the Rif and Beini Ruchim. Again, the Beini Ruchim I'm not going to go into, but the Rif, Yetz Hashem will go into. So the Yeshiva says we have to go to the Gemara in Shabbos to discuss this whole Indian of Tuma and Mal B'Shmini. The Gemara, which says it pretty clear out, the Gemara in Kuf Lamed Hey, Amar Avasi, Kol She'imo to Me'aleda Nimo L'Shmein. Any imo that's Tamei Leda gets Mila B'Shmini, V'chol She'ein imo to Me'aleda, Ein Nimo L'Shmein. Doesn't get Shemini. Shename Ishikazviya v'Yodazacha v'Tom You need Tuma, and then Yimu B'Sar Aloso B'Yom Shemini. So he holds Yom Shemini is totally on Tuma's Leda. In fact, Abaya Kasha. Amalei Abaya Doiris Havishaynus Yochichu. The Doiris Havishaynus from Avram Avinu all the way to Matan Torah is Yochiach. The pasuk says beferish in Lech Lecha that you should be mal your kid b'yom hashmini on the 8th day, and there was no tumas laid over there. Tumas laid only came about finally when we got the Torah. So Abaye says Doris she'ein imo tmei leida b'nimo l'shmeina. So it's not totally habaha. Amalei, so he told them back nitna Torah v'nischad shalom. When the Torah came along and gave the dinim of Tum and Torah, then they went ahead and said that that's what the din of Mila is totally on, Yom Shemini. And we'll see the Gemara in Sanhedrin soon, what it's totally on. Any effect the Gemara, I'll just give you this whole thing, which the Riff's going to bring down, this whole Gemara. Any, v'ha'itma yaiti daifin, u'mishyesh lo shtei arlois, Rav Huna, Rav Chia, Harav, Chadamam Chalon of the Shabbos, Chadam Ema Chalon of the Shabbos. If you have a Yaitid Daifin, that means there's no Tumas laid over there. It's a Syrian. The baby didn't come out Malkam Mazras. It came out from the stomach. So it's not Tomei Tumas Leida. And Shtei Arlois, either the Matthias either is that there are two Arelos, one on top of the other one. There's a Gid double covered, or there are two Gidden over there. That's they don't seem to like that. But Rashi brings down both of them. So there's a machlokes if you mechalel Shabbos or not for that. But he says, look, they're only arguing on Chilul Shabbos. They're not arguing on Yom Shemini. Says it. Lo pligi yel l'chalel Shabbos al v'shmini v'adei mechalin mahalit mehilin lei. You give a mila. Says the Gemara, no. Haba hatalia. No. He meant it's when they're arguing on Shabbos, they're arguing on Shemini. It's the same din, the same pasuk, same din. So the Gemara brings down a machlokes tanoim. This machlokes tanoim for sure. It's a machlokes tanoim if you need imutmeya leida to have Yom Shemini. Talk about avodim. Yesh miknas kesef nimo leechad. Yesh miknas kesef shenimo l'shmeina. You have miknas kesef that you could right away when you buy him, you give him mila, and there's the one that you have to wait 8 days for. And then same thing with Yilid Beisai. Yesh miknas kesef nimo l'shmeina. What do you do? Lokach shivcha muberes v'achach yolda zel miknas kesef shenimo l'shmeina. Once he's in your possession, she's in your possession, you have to wait 8 days. You bought shivcha v'vladayima right away. 1 day old, you bought the baby already with the mother, gets mila the first day. Miknas kesef, okay, that's this notion. What about Yilid Bayis? Shenimo l'shmeina? Lokach shivcha nesabra etzloi, got a shivcha, and she became pregnant by him, v'yolda, then that's Yilid Bayis that you get for 8 days, right? Rav Chama says, Yolda, if you didn't toivel her yet, and she became pregnant and had a baby, so when she had the baby, she was not Tomei Leida. She wasn't Jewish. She had to have Tumas Leida on her. Then it's not Nimul Shmeina. Rav Chama says, Klar, it's totally Leida. The Tumas Leida is the din of Shmeina. It's totally Habaha. And the Chum Grada don't make a chelik. Loshna ben hitbila achach yolda ben yolda achach hitbila af agav din imut mei Leida Nimul Shmeina. There's a sugya. Is Tumas Leida and Yom Shemini totally habaha? Machlokes. What do we do with this sugya? The Rif reads the sugya exactly the way I just read it, word for word. Which means, as the Ran says, he was not machriya. He didn't come out, even though in our sugya Rishizvi brought down. Here he was not machriya. I'll have to see why that's not a big kasha. Right now, that's what he does, and the Balamar, they all have the same suffix. What does it mean, a suffix? It means, even though really, the Balamar says that The came no ipsike hilchas, so the ripped in hilchas behedek rabbanon or krav chama, naktinan lepolktay lechumra, v'nima l'shmeina v'ener deiches haShabbos. It's nima l'shmeina, not deiches Shabbos. Afal gav the haba hatalya, even though they're totally on each other. But we're talking about Suffolk. Havai sveika shein deiches haShabbos. V'chein nirim v'divei riv shekosav hakol k'misha sida b'gemara v'lo pasak hilchas adivimi. Bringing down the whole sugya without saying anything about it is just saying, I don't know what to do. So right now we have a Yahrtzeit that's Nimo L'Shmeina, and it's not Deiches Shabbos. And they're all saying it's because it's a suffix. We don't know what to do. We don't know. Is it totally, not totally? We suffix, we're machmer. The Rambam also holds this way. But let's see the two Rambams over here. He doesn't say anything about a suffix. The Rambam in Parak Aleph of Mila Halacha Zayin, he says, the end, androgynous, for who hayolad sheyesho zachvis kenekeva v'nachvis kenekeva tzorach limo oisel b'shmini. You have to do it on the 8th day. V'chein Yahrtzeit you have to do on the 8th. V'mi sheyesho shtei arlois malan oisel b'shmini. Do it b'shmini. Says the Rashiva, he doesn't say any suffix over here. He just says the din. Now wait a second. He does say androgynous. Androgynous for sure is a suffix. So why didn't he say it's a suffix by androgynous if every place doesn't say it, it's vada? Rather, Reb Chaim himself also holds this way. He brings a Rambam from Perek Aleph, again, Halacha Yud. He brings down that it says, just like Milas Avodim is, Milas Bonim is Deiches HaShabbos, so to Milas Avodim, Shenim L'Shmein is Deiches Shabbos. Chutz miyolid miyildayish lo toval imo ad sheyolda she'af al pi shenimo l'shmeina eino deiches haShabbos. Says Chaim, he's saying the same thing. It's vada. It's not imo l'shmeina, not suffix. It's a deiches Shabbos. God, the next halacha in Aleph Doshi brings down that over there it says Yahrtzeit and androgynous chamish sheish shtei arlois ein in deiches haShabbos. Alinimo ein be'echad b'Shabbos shu yom shish. Again, not a suffix, anything like that. So Shiva says the Rambam is not like the other Rishonim that say it's a suffix. We don't know Pshat in the Sugya, and therefore we're bringing l'chumra. We do it l'shmeina, and we do it we're not like Shabbos because we have a suffix what to do. The Rambam says no. There's some way I'm going to tell you that vadai it has to be shmini, and vadai it has to be it's not like Shabbos. Where's that coming from? So the Shiva starts going through. He says, Avada. You have to know all the Rambams. The Shiva says, you want to know, well, it doesn't say suffix, it's not a suffix. But what about androgynous? He says, well, maybe you remember, in Hilchas Ishus, the Rambam says in Perek Beis, Halacha Chaf Hey. Dalit is the Tumtum, okay, that's okay. Mishiesh Da'achad Dalit also, okay, it's all going on androgynous. Who Safik Imzach in the cave of Ein Lo Simin, so Dalit. Mishiesh Lo Ivri Zachvis, Ivri Nachvis. It has both boy and girl Simonim. Nikra androgynous, who Safik Imzach in the cave. Safik if it's a boy or girl, but Ein Lo Simin Yaduabo, Imuzach Vade, on the cave of Adoyis Lo Elam. You'll never be able to. It's not that it's going to nikra and to zacha. It has both. It's nothing. You will never know. Says the Rambam in Chav Zayin. By the way, I want to tell you something. Nimtza kol shemesh sheibarim. I'm not going to go through all of them. Androgynous, tumtum, paroshim, pichim, sim kol hashemes ha'elu le'umoscha tomit. You should remember all these things I'm telling you always. The al yach Yeluzu Meinecha, and don't let them slide away. Kol in Yanehem, all the things about them. Kidesh lein itzrichim levar inyan kol shem mehem chol mokim shenizgoisam. I don't have to tell you anymore. Androgynous is given, it's a suffix, you'll never know it can't be. So anytime you see androgynous, you should see the word suffix next to it. There's no din. I don't have to explain to you androgynous. But Yetzedaifen, Shtei Arlois, those are Vadoyim. Those are Vadoyim that they're Nimul Shmaina, and they're not Lecheshavas. So on a base, the yeshiva goes through to explain that Shtei Arlois is pashut, that it's a vada. The vada has to give the chiyav mila. What's the question? Why should you think it doesn't need a chiyav mila just because it has an extra arla on it? There's a gid that has an extra arla, extra thick, whatever, double layer. Vada you need to do it. And certainly if it's Shnei Giden, and each one has their own arla, so you got to at least do one of them, figure out which one's the ikr if you think you only have to do one. But that's for sure you have to do. It's a vadai. It's not a suffix over here. And don't think, he says avad if it's two, avad it's pashut. But don't think if it's one on top of the other, you might have a patur. Don't think it's not chayiv yet because it's covered. It's covered. It's like tumtum. Tumtum is covered, right? But avada, tumtum is covered because it's covered by the guf. There's no gid here. Over here, there's a gid. It's just double covered. So avada, you have to get down to take off the arla to get to the gid. And how do you know that a tumtum you don't have to be kaireya to get it, to see if it's a boy or a girl? I mean, not a boy or a girl. Yeah, to see if it's a boy or a girl, to see if you chayiv mila. Maybe taki you chayiv mila. You just can't get to it. So really, we should go ahead and rip open the tumtums, make an operation, and see if the boy's not right away. How do we know there's no chiv to do that at all? So everybody who, I know we have a lot of bikim in your vamas over here. So avad they know from daf ayin. You'll tell me which exact. What does the Gemara say? It's looking for a case of Yelid Beisai, your own children, that it's shaykh that they were there b'shas, that you were not chayiv to make a bris milah b'shas shchita, but b'shas, the time that you want to eat the current Pesach, they're ma'akiv. And what is one of the things that Pincha, I forgot the name, Kana, I forgot who says it. One of them is tumtum shenikra bein shchita la'achila. What do you mean? If you had a chiv to rip him open beforehand and he ended up being a boy, the shchita of the current Pesach wasn't good. So there's no chiv to rip him open. That's for sure. That's for sure. If Kivega brings it, Tava Pashit, it's like that. So that's for sure. But this Shtei Arlois, the problem is the gid's covered. The gid is here, but you got to do something about it. So Vadi, you got to make a bris milah on it. And okay, that's the Yeshiva's main point, that Avada, there's no Shaila, there's a Chiv, and Memela, it's a Vadai. In there he says two or three interesting things over there. He said, Avada, it's Pashit, if a kid would be born with just Arla and no Erva, then Avada, there's no mitzvah to just cut off Arla. There's no din Arla. And if somebody would make a chop and cut off the Arla and the bris, he wasn't yaitz any bris. There's not way either. Says the mitzvah is to take off the arla and be megala, what they always says, megala hatorah, whatever it is, that you should see that there is the gid is a scholar. Meaning that's the chefs of the mitzvah. That's what he explains how Avram told Eliezer to grab the. If it's the arla is gone a long time ago. It's the chefs of mitzvah, is the etzem bris itself, that is the scholar, that is the Chetzer Shel Mitzvah. And so David HaMelech was happy when he was in the Medicine Merchet, that he said he had a mitzvah. Okay, but getting now to what we have to get to is, again, the Rambam, we're learning it's a Vadai. So Anaf Gimel, don't worry, we'll skip a few Anafim. Anaf Gimel, the Yeshiva says, even if it's true that there's a din, Yom Hashmini Yimo, you definitely need a pasuk to tell you that you're Mechal Shabbos. Just having a blanket chiyuv to have Yom HaShemini doesn't give you a right to do it with all the sugyas in Asay D'Chos, Asay, whatever you can go through. But without that, the Gemara in Shabbos, it Kufa says, well, not without that, he tries to run all those Gemaras too. But the Gemara in Shabbos, at the beginning of Rabbi Elazar the Mila, and that's really the drasha Rashbam brings down over here, by us, the Gemara Kuf Lamed Beis. The beginning of Elazar the Mila, what's the famous machlokes? Of Elazar the Mila, he holds that even Machshirin are Deicha Shabbos. But the Chacham say no, only Mila itself. Says the Gemara, Ad kan lo k'fig Rabbanon alei elab Machshir Mila. Avol Mila Gufa Divrei Akol Deicha Shabbos. Minolan. How do you know it? You can't just decide because Yom HaShemini is going to give it. You need a drasha. So the Gemara tries a lot of different drashas, and finally it comes out from the Yechanan and says, our drasha, B'yayim Hashmini, why did I say B'yayim? Let's just say, Ubashmini, Yimum B'zar Oloso. What's B'yayim Hashmini? Timar B'Shabbos. There's a brayse that brings a riot to a brayse time say the Yechanan. And that's the drasha that we have. You need a drasha, and we have a drasha. Oh, so you need a drasha to Mechal Shabbos. Just because that was the way, obviously, till now, before Matan Torah, there was no Chilul Shabbos, because there was no Shabbos to Mechal. So, Avadere with Mechal, Yom Shmini. So the Shiva now goes to tell you that, yes, you need a drasha, and without a drasha you can't mechal it. Now we have to go to the Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Gemara in Sanhedrin on Nun Tes. The Gemara says, the Yosef Chanina has a famous klal. Kol mitzvah shenermu livnei noyach v'nishnas b'Sinai lezel lezenerma. All mitzvahs that were said and repeated in Sinai means we had it before, but it was repeated lezel lezenerma. Goyim ha'mechuyev. The Sheva mitzvah noyach, they repeated. If it was livnei noyach v'lo nishnas b'Sinai, if it was only said livnei noyach but it wasn't repeated, then the Yisrael nem of Lod Neich. It's only for Yisrael and not Neich. Says, and what we have is Ganasha. Okay, so let's go back to the Gemara on the bottom of the page. Kol mitzvah shenema of Neinoach v'nishnis b'Sinai l'zel zenema. Really? V'hari Mila shenema of Neinoach. Mila was by Noach. Avram Avinu got the mitzvah of Mila. V'atah espisi tishma v'nishnis b'Sinai b'yom hashmini yom b'zaroloso. And Goyim, that's not when the Sheva mitzvah b'nei Noach, they don't have to make any bris milah. So, how could you say this klal? First heret to the Gemara is Hahu l'mishri Shabbos hu da'asa. That's Kufa's point. It only came to Yimat Shabbos. It's the parsha of Avram Avinu that is now being put over here. We'll say it's qualified, or I guess in the computer world, updated, whatever you're going to say, to go ahead and fit in. Now that there's a Torah din of Shabbos, we have to tell you that you have a right to Mechal Shabbos for this Yom HaShmini. But it's that Yom HaShmini that we spoke about till now that didn't have a din of the Shabbos. There was no Shabbos. So it was not Nem and Venishnis. Okay? Only given to Klali Yisrael. So you don't have to start looking for Miyutim for Esav and Ishmael, whatever, they're all out. But that's the first teretz. V'ba Yisema, the Gemara is the second teretz over here. V'ba Yisema, Mila meikara lavram hu to komazil levachmana v'ato espisi tishma ato v'zarecha achrecha daraisa ato v'zarecha in neshach min Allah. Is as Rashi explains, Vadai misinai nemra leika mitzvasa. The Kashloch of Yasi says it's not. It was. Mishum the mila lav nei noyach nemra afilu mikaydim Sinai Elazar Avram. The reason why it's not included in this famous cloud of Nema Benishnis that the Goyim should be chayiv in is because even when it was said the first time, it was only given to Zer Avram. So it's not a rule for all Bnei Noach. It's only for the Zer Avram Noach people that get this chiyuv. Memela now we got to get miyutim for Yishmael and they're all Zer Avram. How do we get Esav and Yishmael? We have to knock them out. Why the children don't need? That's right now the two terutzim. So the MS, the second teretz hold, it's ne'ema v'nishnis. It was said, and it was chazed over again. So he goes to Chalukim. He says Lamaisa. Now it comes out. There's one other chiluk. Interesting. On the din of Nema V'nishnis, the second teretz in the Divrei is saying in the Gemara that it was Nema V'nishnis. So the truth is, it was only said to Zer Avram to begin with, and now it's continuing. So what's the added on? He says it's not such a big kasha because we find in this week's parasha, in Parashat Kisisa, that Yeroah Kol Zechurcha, and Rashi says, "Havim mitzvahs b'Torah nemu v'nichpulu v'yeshem sholosh pamim ba'arba." It's not fair if the mitzvah is said twice and it's a double chiyuvim. And that's what's going on over here. So it comes out like this. If, according to Lishna Kama, as we said, there's only one chiyuv. There's only one chiyuv. It was not Nema B'nishnis. It was just qualified and updated, or whatever word you want to use, to tell you that Yom HaShmini has a din of Daicha Shabbos, but when? When there are certain rules. Maybe it's a Daifin, it's totally on Tumah, maybe it's totally on this and that. And Memela, if you don't have Yom HaShmini, you don't have those dinim, you don't have Daicha Shabbos, and you don't have Yom HaShmini. It's all the same din. It's the same Yom Shmini that was there, is here now, with this group of dinim. But if it's a Iboy Seima, the second shot is that be'etzem, there are two dinim over here for bris milah. There's the bris that was given to Avram Avinu, that still exists. And there's a chiyuv Yom Shmini, nothing to do with Dicha Shabbos. And then there's the din that's given by Tazriya, which is Bnei Yisrael, which that Yom Shmini is totally on the Chilul Shabbos has to be over there Yom Shmini. So meaning, even if we would say somebody doesn't fit into the parsha, let's say Yahrtzeit Daifin, or Tumtum, would not fit into a parsha of Tazriya, so it doesn't have a din of Dichei Shabbos, and Memela, the parsha of Tazriya won't get a Yom HaShmini, but it still needs Yom HaShmini because of the parsha of Lech Lecha. That's what's happening. So we're giving it a chiyuv. It's like there are two chiyuvim, two dinim over here. That's the Shitas HaRambam, that Yahrtzeit Daifin gets Mila Midin Vadai, and it's not the Shabbos Midin Vadai. Because they're two different Makairos for when the dinim are. And a dollar was skipped Shnearelis, another Ma'ol is hay. And Joigelis is a there's a paragraph at the end of Anavav. Says, now we can answer the Rashbam. The Rashbam also said at the beginning of the Gemara, what was Akasha? Why did the Gemara and the Rashbam start the Gemara assuming that we're talking about Yom HaShmini only Gabe Dicha of Shabbos? The Pasuk's talking about Yom HaShmini. The Chayvah, they go hand in hand. Yom HaShmini and Shabbos go together. But now the Pshat is the Rashbam holds like the Rambam, that, like the Iba Yisema, that we're going to, that there's two dinim, and even if you don't have the din of Dicha Shabbos and Shmini Mitzad, the second parasha, you still have the original Chiyuv. So there was no way that when the Shizvi said his halacha, that it's af ein imol shmeina, he meant the 8th day, because you anyway have to be nimol the 8th day. He means out Shabbos, and that was the whole Havamina to begin with. There was no way to say that it meant both. Then the Shiva goes on to say that the Rashbam wanted the Dafka learn this way, because if Rav Shizvi at the beginning meant a kula that you don't need Shmeina Yamim, then he was up Geshlot from the Braisa too. Because there is Tumas Leid over there. And there is, the Braisa holds this Tumas Leid, so why don't you have to wait till Yom Shmini? So at least the Chumrah, you'd have to wait for the 8th day. So that's why. And he says, maybe that's the makar of the Rambam, that he holds like the second Lashon. He says, Agamar Vasu might be the makar for why he says that's the pshat, because this is the way of learning the Gemara in Yesh Neichlin. How do we know the Rambam holds like the second Lashon? Says the Yeshiva, because according to the first Lashon, it wasn't Nema Benishnis. So, do B'nai Keturah have a Chiyuv Milah? No. Where'd they get a Milah from? Where'd they get a Chiyuv? And the Rambam Paskins in Hilchos Malachim, Perik Yud, Halacha Zayin Ches, that Milah Nitzavo Zer Avram, okay? Amru Chachamim Sheb'nai Keturah Shehem Zara Shel Avram Shebo Achi Yishmael V'Yitzchak Chayam B'Milah. And he even says more, since in the Sarah Vayayim, everybody needs Milah because they don't have the din of Reuven, but Lamaisa, he holds that B'nai Keturah have a bris. Where'd that come from? It doesn't come from the first Chiyuv. The first Chiyuv was only said, the first teretz in the Gemara held, there was only one din. It was not Nishnis. It's not the guy's din. It's only a Jew's din. It's not a Beinish din. It's only Yisrael's. So B'nai Keturah can't have it. But the second Lashon holds that there's two mitzvahs. It's Nema Benishnis, to Zer Avram. Yishmael got it. Not Yishmael, B'nai Keturah got it. That's the Pshat, how to answer the Rambam Shita, the Rashbam, and they're talking with Taras Vada. And of course, he has a chiluk between the Rashbam and Rambam, that it's about Taras Vada as opposed to the Razan. Everybody that learned this only a suffix. They get the anointing with Shemin Shel Truma, right? If the Vadei Arla, you could go ahead and there's no Arl today 8 days if he needs an 8-day bris, an 8-day. But if it's a suffix, then you should really get a bris today. Your suffix Arl, so you can't anoint them. But that was a Zayt, right? That he said the last paragraph in that. Okay, Zayin, let's skip here. Tess. Oh. Let's go to Shitas Harif. Shitas Harif. So the Shitas Harif said that he passed like Rosh Hashivah. Truth is, we didn't speak about it, but the Bein Yeruchim, not sure. Does the Rif also hold that it's Yom Echad, not Yom or Yom Shmini? Is it totally, not totally? Maybe first Lashon, second Lashon. It's not so sure how it goes. At the end, I think he wants to say it needs Yom Shmini, but it's not Deicha Shabbos. So Rosh Hashiva says, you know how the Rif learns? The Rif says like this. Rav Shizvi, what's the kasha? The kasha is to Rav Shizvi just like the kasha was to Shravya. Not so much. Because Rav Shizvi never made his drasha from the part of the pasuk that says that's Tumas Leida and Neviyom Hashmini Yimo. That's not where he was coming from. He was coming from the beginning of the pasuk, and that's why he was first. The pasuk says, the Isha says, "V'yo v'yolda adshei zocher vaday b'shas leida." That's what you have to know. If that's true, then don't dash in the second pasuk of the second half of the first pasuk, which is Yom Hashmini, which is Tumas Leida. Go to Yom Hashmini. Now, why are you doing this? Why are you jumping? It says, if you hold like Rabbi Yehuda, so we're going on Smuchim and Muchrach. It's like this. This parsha is the parsha of Tumas Tuma. That's what Tazviyah is. Parsha of Tuma. So where do you write Parshas of Tuma? In Tazviyah. But what does it have to do with the Bris Milah? Why are you sticking the bris into this parsha? You know why you're sticking the bris into this parsha? Because you want it to be going on the din of Isha Kizazriya V'yolda that you need a Vadai Ben, but nothing to do with the din Tumah. You don't even darshan with him. He skipped that part of it. That was there the whole time. As a matter of fact, even the second lashon, any lashon you want to learn, he says maybe Abaye is right. Abaye is the kasha, right? This chach Doris Rishonis Yuchiyah. That has nothing to do with Tumas Leida. Maybe he's happy with that. So there's no din Tumas Leida. That's not what makes Yom Shmini. So what's making that it's not Deicha Shabbos, so it's not Shmini? The drasha of you need a Yolda Vadai Zacha, then if you're in a Shmini Yima. But if it's not Vadai, you don't have it, and it's not. He's not doing. And that's why he doesn't bring the pasuk of Shravia that's going on Tumas Leida, therefore Yom Hashmini Yimo. That's not the din he's saying. He's saying the first pasuk, the first half of the first pasuk, till the second pasuk. And that's why, says Yoshiva, the Gemara brought Rav Shizvi first. Because Rav Shravia is not before Rav Shizvi, it's a different drasha altogether. Rav Shizvi saying a din that has to go with the Isha Aziv Yolda Zacha, and you go to the Rav Shizvi may not even hold of Rav Shravia. We thought Rav Shravia may hold of Rav Shizvi, but now Rav Shizvi may not even hold of Rav Shravia. It's mamish, you're going, Isha Aziv Yolda has to be Vadei Zacha, then B'yom Shmini Yim Basar Lasa. What about Tumas Leida? It's very mistav, says the Rashiva, there's Tumas Leida. Bishleima, a Yahrtzeit Daifin, there's something strange about the Mila, the birth. But a Tumtum, androgynous, there's nothing strange about the birth. There's something strange about the kid. So what does that have to do with Tumas Leida? So he says a lot of reasons why he would push to do it. That's a drasha in the Rif circle. And that's the way he wants to answer the Rif. And he says, this way it's so meduyak, why Rav Shizvi first, you don't have to change any gears, like the Gershom didn't change and everything. Okay, this is pretty much Zen Nirel and Yistaiti B'inyan HaChomer Hazeh B'nei Hashem Yisbarach. In Anaf Tes, 5 more minutes. Well, unless we go into the Reb Chaim and want to work it out, but you'll probably look at it yourself. Don't forget the Dibbus Anaf Tes when you do it, and Chazon Ish. They have similar ha'aras. Hinei Baruch Hashem, he says in Anaf Tes, Ba'oicha Yisi Beluban, B'shas Sudas B'smila K'meduni Shahayazeh B'shnas Tafresh Pehei. I can really say it this time, 100 years ago. Okay? B'sheni Be'ir, Shel B'ni HaRishayin HaYeled Pesachayim Oyer Shalom, V'seinu Rabim Nilkach Meni Lemara, V'hei El Tafresh Pevav, V'yoshev Elai B'zman Tchias HaMeis. Amarti K'tas Misimen Zeh, that the Rambam saw V'dik Shnei Chiyuvim, Mitzad Milas Mila, and that he goes through the whole thing, and okay. Ukeshazatani, Ezrani, Hashem Yisbarach, Ubasi Lakan B'shnas Tafresh Tzadik Zayin. So 12 years later, Ve'isi Sefer Chedushay Reb Chaim Halevi, Motzasi Shagoyin Rabbeinu Chaim Briska Mibris Hatzal Omazeh. He says exactly my chilek. The two dinim, well, they speak different languages, but the two laws over here, two chiyuvim. V'nenesi shekivanti leDivrei Goyin Olam. But he says, there's chilukim, of course. I just did a whole maracha, and Reb Chaim has like 3 or 4 paragraphs on this whole thing. And he says, I go through the Gemara without the test, and Lishna Kama, Lishna Baz, go all that, and all those svaris. And he wants to learn through the Sugim Abaya. So Lamaisa, he says the Mechaven for it, and then he goes through some ha'aris why he learns a little differently in the sugyas that the Reb Chaim was learning. But Baruch Hashem, we have shot in the sugya, and he is the Baruch.